He finally texted you after days of silence. No apology, no explanation, just a casual, hey, like nothing happened. And now your heart is racing. Should you respond? Should you ignore him? What does this even mean? Before you type a single word, stop. Because this moment isn't just about a message. It's about your power. What if his message isn't love, but convenience? What if you're not the exception, just a backup plan? This isn't about revenge or playing hard to get. It's about reclaiming your standards. He disappeared without warning, and now he wants access again without effort. But people show their true intentions through consistency, not breadcrumbs. His silence already told you something. Are you listening? You don't owe him instant access to your energy. You don't owe anyone a fast reply just because they finally remembered you. Your response sets the tone for how he treats you next. So don't move from emotion, move from clarity. Because this isn't just about his message. It's about your message to yourself. I am not available for inconsistency. Watch this before you reply. Because how you handle this moment could change everything. You get that text, that late night, hey, or maybe it's a sorry, I've been busy, or what's up, and for a moment, your heart skips. You feel something light up in your chest. Not because of the message itself, but because of the silence that came before it. Days have passed. Maybe you wondered if you said something wrong. Maybe you replayed your last conversation in your head a dozen times, trying to figure out what went off track. Maybe you even tried to convince yourself that they were just swamped with work, or overwhelmed, or needed space. And now they're back, out of nowhere, with a few casual words that somehow carry the power to make you question everything. Let me tell you something. That message, that's not a grand gesture. That's not someone fighting for you. That's not them realizing you're the one and rushing to tell you how much they missed you. It's not even real effort. What it is convenience. And you have to be able to see it for what it is. Because when someone truly values you, they don't disappear for days without explanation. They don't leave you in emotional limbo, waiting and wondering. People who care about you don't take your silence as permission to ignore you. They notice it. They ask. They check in. They don't let the connection flatline and then assume they can revive it with a one-word message when they're bored on a Tuesday night. What happens a lot is we confuse effort with timing. We think, well, at least he texted. That means something, right? But no, it doesn't. It means he had a moment, a lull. Maybe his plans got cancelled. Maybe the girl he was chasing didn't reply. Maybe he felt a little lonely and remembered the safety of your energy. So he reached out, not because he thought deeply about what he did, not because he missed you in the way you deserve to be missed, but because you were available in his mind, like a saved contact he knew he could revisit. And if you're not careful, if you're not grounded in your self-worth, that text becomes a hook. It pulls you back into a cycle because we want connection. We crave validation. And that little ping on your phone feels like a chance, a maybe, a sign. But it's not. It's a moment. And that's all it is. Unless it's followed up with something real, with consistent communication, with presence, with effort. One text doesn't earn a reply just because it finally arrived. You have to be honest with yourself. When someone ghosts you or ignores you or pulls away with no explanation and then reappears like nothing happened, they are testing your boundaries. They are, whether consciously or not, checking how little they can give and still get a response from you. That's what this is. It's a quiet test. And the way you respond teaches them how to treat you. Respond too quickly, and you're signaling that you're available even when they're not consistent. You're showing that your emotional door stays open, regardless of how they behave. And that gives them permission to keep doing it. But you're not here to be someone's emotional backup. You're not here to be the person they come back to when nothing else works out. You're not a placeholder. You're not someone's maybe later. You are not a convenience. You are not plan B. You are not comfort food when the world gets cold. You are a person who deserves clarity, who deserves communication that doesn't feel like chasing shadows. And when someone texts you after ignoring you for days, you need to ask yourself, what version of me are they texting? The version they knew was always there, waiting? Or the version who's grown, who now values consistency over chemistry, who knows that attention given late doesn't mean much if it isn't backed up by genuine effort? Because here's the truth. Real interest doesn't operate on a schedule of silence. It doesn't make you wonder. Real interest shows up, even when it's messy, even when life is chaotic, even if it's just to say, hey, I've had a rough couple days, but I wanted to check in and let you know I'm thinking of you. You'll feel the difference. You'll know, because it won't feel like a crumb. It will feel like care, not a sudden appearance out of nowhere, but a thread that never broke. So when you see that text, don't rush to respond. Don't let the absence of contact be rewritten by a single lazy message. Don't let your standards be reset by someone else's inconsistency. Just breathe, pause, reconnect with yourself. Because when you stop treating late messages like emotional lifelines, you finally start choosing yourself. And that choice, that's when everything changes. You know, one of the biggest mindset shifts we need to make in love is understanding that we are not here to be someone's backup plan. We're not here to be someone's just in case or their emotional insurance policy. And yet, when a guy disappears for days, goes completely quiet, and then suddenly drops back in with a hey, a lot of us jump. We get excited. We think, oh my God, he's thinking of me. Maybe he missed me. Maybe this means something. And I get it. When you like someone, even the smallest breadcrumb can feel like a full meal. But what if we stopped settling for crumbs? Because the reality is, when someone ignores you and then comes back out of nowhere, it's not a grand romantic gesture. It's convenience. It's timing. It's them having a quiet moment or getting bored and reaching for the thing that feels comfortable, familiar, easy. And that's not love. That's access. There's a big difference between someone truly choosing you and someone simply reaching out because they know you'll still be there. We have to stop taking someone's moment of attention as evidence of their long-term intention. Someone who's genuinely interested, someone who actually respects your time and values your emotional presence, isn't going to leave you in silence for days and then casually stroll back in like nothing happened. That's not emotional maturity. That's inconsistency dressed up as mystery. That's not romance, it's emotional convenience. Now, here's the part that matters. Every time you instantly respond to someone who vanished on you, you're reinforcing a dynamic. You're showing them that your time is negotiable, that your self-respect is flexible, that they can treat you like an option and you'll still give them VIP. That's the danger. Because when someone learns that they can disappear, reappear, and still get your attention, you've taught them they never really have to try. You've made yourself too easy to reach. And that doesn't inspire deeper effort. It invites continued laziness. You are the main character in your life. And the main character doesn't chase a side role. The main character doesn't wait around for a supporting actor to deliver one decent scene. You have to start asking yourself, if I were the lead in a story I actually admired, how would I be treated? Would I accept this silence? Would I celebrate this late night text as a win? Or would I see it for what it is? Someone showing up halfway and expecting me to meet them the rest of the way. We don't fall into the trap of being the backup plan by accident. We do it because we're scared. Scared we won't get another message. Scared we'll lose the connection. Scared we're being too difficult or high maintenance if we expect more. But you know what's truly difficult? Giving your heart to someone who never fully shows up. You know what's exhausting? Being emotionally available to someone who's emotionally inconsistent. That wears you down far more than having standards ever could. You have to start trusting in your value, even when someone else doesn't seem to see it clearly, especially then. Because the moment someone's actions don't match your worth, that's not a sign for you to prove yourself. It's a sign for you to pause, step back, and remember who the hell you are. You don't prove your value to someone who's treating you like an afterthought. You prove your value by not needing to. That person who texted you after days of silence isn't necessarily a bad person, but they're someone whose actions are telling you exactly what role they're ready to play in your life. And you get to decide what kind of access that earns them. Not everyone deserves the best of you. Not everyone earns a reply. And sometimes the most powerful move you can make isn't sending a clever response or playing a game to win them back. It's saying nothing. It's protecting your peace. It's refusing to give the most sacred parts of you to someone who treats your presence like it's optional. Being the main character means you stop living in response to someone else's inconsistency. You start living in alignment with your standards. And when someone tries to re-enter your life without having done the work to stay, you don't roll out the red carpet. You don't hand them the same access they had before. You assess. You evaluate. You ask, is this person really choosing me now? Or are they just reaching out because they know I'll pick up? When someone disappears and then reappears, you don't owe them enthusiasm. You don't owe them your time. You owe yourself the reminder that your life moves forward with or without their validation. When you hold on to that, when you embody that level of certainty about your value, you don't attract people who are playing games. You attract people who are ready to stay. And those are the only ones worth your time. You are not someone's backup plan. You never were. One of the biggest traps we fall into in dating is giving way too much weight to the moments that feel exciting while ignoring the moments that reveal the truth. That's especially true when someone texts you after days of silence. It can feel like a little rush. Oh, he's thinking about me, or maybe he just needed some time, and that tiny surge of validation clouds your judgment. But let's pause for a moment and ask a much more important question. What is this person's pattern of behavior? Because when it comes to someone's interest in you, it's not about whether they occasionally reach out. It's about whether they show up consistently. That's the difference between someone who wants a real connection and someone who just wants your attention in moments that suit them. And you'll always know which one you're dealing with if you look at the space between the texts, not just the texts themselves. You see, someone who truly values you won't go silent for days and then reappear as if nothing happened. That's not thoughtfulness. That's convenience. And the reason that matters is because relationships, whether they're just beginning or already established, are built on investment, time, energy, thought. These are the currencies of connection. If someone dips out for days and then comes back with a hey, like it's a magic wand that erases their absence, what they're really saying is, I expect you to be available to me even when I haven't shown up for you. That's a dynamic you don't want. That's a dynamic that tells them they don't need to try. They don't need to care consistently, because you'll always be there waiting. And I know how tempting it is to respond. You want to be seen, you want to feel chosen. And when that text comes through, it lights up that part of you that hopes it means more this time, that maybe something's changed. But let's get honest. If someone hasn't made the effort to be part of your life in a meaningful way, what has really changed? A single message doesn't rewrite a pattern. When someone genuinely cares, they don't disappear and then randomly decide to re-enter your life like nothing happened. They check in, they communicate, they let you know where they stand. You don't have to guess, you don't have to wait around in confusion. And that's the thing, confusion is the enemy of emotional safety. If you're constantly unsure of where you stand, if your mind is looping with questions like, why hasn't he texted? Or did I do something wrong? That's not connection. That's anxiety. And if someone keeps you in that state, they're not showing interest. They're showing control. Control over your peace, over your attention, over your sense of worth. Because every time they vanish and reappear, they're testing whether you'll still be there. And every time you respond instantly, you confirm it. You teach them that their inconsistency has no cost. And if there's no cost, there's no motivation to change. So the next time someone texts you after ignoring you for days, don't just ask, what do I say? Ask yourself, what has this person shown me? Because people reveal their true intentions through consistency, not through the rare, convenient moment where they decide to pop up. Anyone can send a text, anyone can miss you when it's late at night, or when they're lonely, or when they're feeling insecure. That doesn't mean they're willing to show up in the hard moments, in the boring moments, in the everyday effort of actually building something real. You want someone who doesn't just remember you when they feel like it. You want someone who doesn't forget you in the first place. Someone who prioritizes communication, even when it's inconvenient. Someone who doesn't make you feel like you're auditioning for their attention over and over again. So when that message lands in your inbox, pause. Don't rush to reply just because it soothes your ego in the short term. Give yourself a second to breathe and ask the question that really matters. What do I want to teach people about how to treat me? Because when you respond to inconsistency with enthusiasm, you reinforce that they don't need to be better. But when you pause, when you wait, when you reflect, you shift the power back into your hands. You show them that if they want your time, they have to show up for it consistently. Because your heart isn't a place people get to visit whenever they're bored or need validation. It's a place they earn access to through reliability, through honesty, and through respect. When someone goes silent on you, especially in the early stages of getting to know them, it creates this strange emotional vacuum. You're left with 100 possible reasons why they might have disappeared. Maybe they're just busy. Maybe something happened. Maybe they didn't see my message. Maybe I did something wrong. And what happens next is we start to write the story for them. We start to fill in the silence with our own explanations, ones that usually make excuses for their behavior, ones that lean toward empathy rather than boundaries. But here's the truth. Silence is a form of communication. When someone ignores you for days and then casually drops a message like nothing happened, that silence in between, it's telling you something. It's not neutral. It's information. And your job isn't to rush in and fix it or smooth it over with understanding. Your job is to listen to that silence before reacting to the noise they finally make. We're wired to seek closure. So when someone disappears and then reappears, it triggers that part of us that wants to close the loop, to get clarity, to resolve the discomfort. We think that if we respond, if we engage, if we keep the door open, We might eventually get the answers we crave, but the most powerful thing you can do is learn to sit with the discomfort and see it for what it is: evidence of emotional inconsistency. Let's be honest. If someone truly values your presence, they won't let silence speak for them. They'll make sure their actions consistently show up alongside their words. And when they disappear without explanation, they're already telling you where their priorities lie. They're already showing you their emotional availability. The problem is, too often we override that message. We tell ourselves he's probably just bad at texting, or he's under a lot of stress. And maybe that's true, but here's what's also true. Being bad at communication isn't an excuse for making someone else feel undervalued. When you fill in the blanks for someone else's silence, you deny yourself the chance to see reality. You build a fantasy, one that gives them the benefit of the doubt while robbing you of clarity. And clarity is everything in relationships. If you're confused, you're already losing. Healthy relationships aren't confusing. They're not filled with long stretches of uncertainty followed by occasional bursts of attention. That kind of cycle is a trap. It keeps you addicted to the hope that next time will be different, that the next message will make up for all the time lost. But someone who's genuinely interested in you doesn't put you in a position where you have to second-guess their intentions. You don't have to decode their silences or read between the lines of a late-night text. Their consistency removes the guesswork. It brings peace instead of anxiety. So when he finally texts after ignoring you for days, stop and ask yourself, what does his silence tell me that this new message can't undo? What was he willing to let me feel during that time? Did he allow me to feel anxious, disrespected, confused, or discarded? And now, just because he's decided to reach out, do those feelings vanish? Do they stop mattering? It's not about punishing someone for not texting. It's about honoring your own emotional experience and not sweeping it under the rug just because someone finally came back around. Too many people forgive emotional neglect the second they receive a crumb of attention. And every time you do that, you teach someone that they don't need to show up for you consistently, they just need to show up eventually. That kind of dynamic will drain you. It will make you feel like you're always chasing emotional security rather than being given it freely. And you'll start to doubt yourself, your standards, your worth, all because you're trying to build something real with someone who's giving you only fragments of their presence. You have every right to take your time before responding, or to not respond at all. The point is not to be petty or to play games. It's to give yourself the space to recognize whether this person is truly showing up for you or just showing up when it suits them. There's a difference. One is connection, the other is control. And sometimes the most powerful response isn't a clever reply, it's silence. Not because you're trying to hurt them, but because you're finally listening to what their silence already told you. Let's talk about something that doesn't get said enough. Your response, or lack of response, sets the tone for how someone treats you going forward. That moment when your phone lights up and it's him, after days of silence, is more than just a message. It's a test. Not necessarily a test he's consciously giving you, but a test of your standards, your boundaries, and your self-worth. How you respond, or even if you respond at all, sends a message louder than any words you could type back. See, we tend to look at that message and think, finally, maybe he was busy. Maybe he needed space. Maybe he just now realized how much he misses me. We make excuses because deep down, we want the connection. We want the story to work out. But the truth is, when someone disappears and then suddenly drops a message as if nothing happened, they're watching to see how you'll react. They're watching to see if you're still there, if you'll still engage, if you'll reward silence with availability. When you respond quickly to someone who's been inconsistent, you're not just replying to a text, you're teaching them how to treat you. You're saying, I'll still be here even if you go quiet for days. You're signaling that your standards are flexible, that your time is always open to them, no matter how they behave. And that's not just about that one message. That's the start of a dynamic, a pattern that, if you're not careful, can become the story of your relationship. The people we're drawn to are often the ones who trigger something emotional in us. And when someone pulls away, it can create this anxiety loop that makes their return feel even more powerful. So when they come back, it feels like relief, like finally I matter again. But that feeling is deceptive. It's not evidence of their love. It's evidence of the emotional roller coaster they've put you on. And if you reward that, you're signing up for more of the same. So ask yourself, what kind of connection do I want to build? Is it one where I'm always waiting to be seen, waiting to matter, waiting for crumbs of attention? Or is it one where I'm met with consistency, with respect, with someone who actually shows up? When someone disappears for days without explanation and then suddenly reappears with a casual message, they're not taking accountability. They're avoiding it. They're skipping over the part where they acknowledge their absence. They're hoping you'll just go along with it, that you'll slip back into that dynamic without asking questions. And if you do, if you respond as though nothing happened, they learn that they can do this again. They learn that you're available without responsibility, that you're a safety net they can fall into whenever it suits them. But you don't have to play that game. You don't have to match their silence with eagerness. You don't have to reward inconsistency with presence. You can pause. You can wait. You can even choose not to respond at all. And that doesn't make you cold. It makes you clear. It makes you someone with self-respect. Because here's the thing. If someone really wants to reconnect, they'll do more than send a vague, hey, after disappearing. They'll show up with effort. They'll explain. They'll acknowledge the distance and take responsibility for it. They'll give you the clarity you deserve, not confusion disguised as affection. And if they don't, that's your answer. If someone only sends out a half-hearted message and expects you to come running, they're not valuing your presence. They're taking it for granted. That's not connection, that's convenience. Every relationship, every connection is built on the little choices we make, the texts we respond to, the behavior we tolerate, the energy we invest. And if you want a relationship where someone shows up fully, you have to start by showing them what kind of behavior earns your energy, not demands it, earns it. So the next time that message pops up out of nowhere after days of silence, stop, breathe. Don't rush to fill the space with your attention. Let your silence speak too. Let your response reflect your value. Because when someone sees that they can't just walk in and out of your life without consequence, they start to see that you're not just someone they can reach out to when they're bored or lonely. You're someone who respects themselves enough to hold a higher standard. And if they want to be in your world, they'll have to rise to meet it. Don't reward inconsistency with availability. Let your standards teach them what your silence doesn't have to say. You don't owe anyone immediate access to you. And I really want you to hear that, not just as a nice phrase, but as a way of living, a mindset. Because somewhere along the way, we've been conditioned to believe that when someone finally reaches out, especially someone we've been waiting on, we're supposed to feel grateful, as if their attention is a gift. And so we scramble, we get excited, We think, this is it. They remembered me. They care. Maybe this means something now. But pause for a moment. Think about what's really happening here. This person ignored you for days. No explanation, no check-in, nothing. And now, out of nowhere, they appear in your inbox with a casual hey or what's up, like they didn't just disappear without a trace. And your first instinct might be to respond right away, to give them what they want. But why? What are you really responding to? Is it the message? Or is it the emotional void they left behind? It's natural to crave connection. It's human to want to feel wanted. But your need for connection should never come at the expense of your self-respect. You don't have to immediately make yourself available just because someone finally decided you're worth talking to again. That's not connection. That's compliance. And love shouldn't feel like obedience. Let me say this clearly. Your time is sacred. Your energy is finite. When someone ghosts you for days, they're sending you a message, even if they didn't type it out. That silence, that's a statement. It says, you're not my priority right now. And when someone treats you that way, your response should not be to reapply for the job. It should be to reevaluate why you're still entertaining someone who doesn't value consistency. And I know what you might be thinking. What if they were busy? What if something came up? What if I'm being too harsh? Listen, life does happen. People do get overwhelmed. But communication isn't about perfection. It's about effort. Someone who truly values you, even in their chaos, will find a way to let you know they haven't forgotten you. And if they don't, then that silence is a kind of clarity you've been given. What matters is how you respond when they return. Because that moment, that's not just a casual text. That's a test. A test of how much value you place on yourself. And if you respond instantly, enthusiastically, without even acknowledging the gap in effort, you're saying, I don't require consistency to stay emotionally invested. But if you pause, if you take a moment to sit with how that silence made you feel and what it says about the dynamic, you give yourself the space to choose a response rooted in power, not panic. You don't have to reply right away. You're allowed to wait. You're allowed to breathe. You're allowed to consider whether this person actually adds something meaningful to your life, or if they're just checking in to see if the door is still open. Because that's what happens more often than not. They don't necessarily want back in, they just want to know they still can get in. And the moment you buy into that, you start negotiating your worth based on someone else's rhythm. But your rhythm matters too. Your peace matters. And no one should have the power to disrupt your peace just because they suddenly remembered you exist. This isn't about playing games or punishing someone. It's about recognizing that you're not a vending machine for affection. Someone doesn't get to press a button and expect you to deliver. And just because they finally decided to circle back doesn't mean they get front row access again. That access has to be earned through consistent actions, honest communication, and respect for your emotional boundaries. It's okay to take a beat, to reflect on what you actually want, not what you're afraid of losing, not what you wish this could become, but what's actually happening. Because often, when someone reaches out after disappearing, it's not about you. It's about their own emotional boredom, their ego needing a hit, or their life lacking something and hoping you'll fill the gap. But you weren't put here to fill gaps. You were meant to be met, fully, wholly, consistent. And anything less than that is not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of their inability to rise to your level. So the next time someone texts you after ignoring you for days, don't rush to answer. Sit with your power. Feel it. Because in that silence, there's strength. In your pause, there's purpose. And in choosing not to immediately respond, you're making it clear, my heart isn't something you can come and go from as you please.